to my subconscious that
I remember I was on the rope and the person that caused the sinking of the boat, everybody looked the same in the water. I was helping, trying to get him out, and I grabbed him, and you called me and said, the line is stretching. What are you doing? And the guy dislocated my shoulder. But the coconut.
good times.
I got teased about that. I still have that coconut.
That's outstanding.
I still have that coconut.
I should expect nothing less of you, actually.
I still have that coconut to remind me of what a grand mal idiot I can be.
Yep. But that exact transaction with the coconut is why we're still friends, because I always tell people everybody you'll meet in life is crazy. The trick is picking people that are your kind of crazy and keeping them around.
Well, and right. And the thing is, I don't care what you are, but what I do care about is the gap between what you are and your perception of what you are. If that gap is too big, we can't cope.
Right.
If it's small, I know people that are good, but it's huge. I know people that are bad, but it's small.
Yeah.
And I can deal with that. You know what you're dealing with. You know what you're getting.
Well, and it's like a Broadway show. Everybody you meet in life, you should get a program ahead of time so you know what's coming next, or at least the basics, an abridged version of it. So you can consciously decide whether you want to deal with the future or not.
I was shooting, they were filming something up in Allentown, and they have these notes they have at the beginning of the shoot, and I forget what they're called. They've got an industry name. But I showed up. I was sick. Someone drove me up. It was very nice. They treated me very nice for an interview. And so they have notes, and they handed me these crew notes or whatever they are. And the crew notes had a page about me. And so I read it. It said, 2 cans of cold Coca-Cola. Do not ask to remove hat. Tell where bathroom is. And
no fast movements.
Yeah. No flash photography or whatever. But it was like this. It was almost like this caution. It was like this warning label on something you'd buy. And I read it, and apparently I wasn't supposed to read that or something. And I looked at it. I was like, and they said, "Oh, we're sorry." And I said, "No, I love this.
It's about right."
If everybody could be given these on everybody else when we meet them,
and like that dumb game where you've got a hat and there's a thing like
something stuck to it.
Yeah, and there's like a word on it you got to get the other person to say. If everybody had one of those with that sheet on it when you met them, that would be outstanding.
Yeah, you could go up and read and just turn and walk away, or you could
pretend not to even see them, whatever
works. Whatever
and
works.
Move on with life with the people that you like their hat.
It's too complicated now, because now you say something and then a day later you find out that somebody was offended by it, and they told somebody else who told somebody else who told somebody else, and never actually just, if you offend me, I'm going to tell you right then and there.
Yeah.
And just say, I don't stop what you're talking about, or I'll just leave. But I don't believe, and I have a problem with this, where freedom of speech has become this thing where it's freedom of agreeable speech or freedom of speech that doesn't offend me or whatever. It's freedom of speech. There should be more freedom of fist.
Well, and that's where we veered off into the territory we're in now.
Right.
Back when we were kids, you got in a fight on the playground at school, you went home with a black eye. Now somebody pulls a gun or a knife out and it ends totally different, and things have just got progressively worse to the point that people think, nothing can happen anymore because you're not allowed to have a knife in school. I don't know about you. When I was in school, I used to carry a knife. I mean, just a Swiss Army knife kind of thing.
So, well, whatever you carry, let's break it down like this. You couldn't take on a plane now. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were fine to carry that, and people weren't getting stabbed left or right. What we've done to overcorrect, which is what America always does, is we've lost all middle ground.
Right.
We're at extremes, and it's not right.
Well, and the Swiss Army knife that I carried growing up, I mean, I was a Cub Scout, and you'd use it to whittle something.
Yeah.
It was a tool. If I got in a fight, not once did I think about pulling it out to stab somebody. That's not what it's for.
No. No. And things had more direct consequences, and because of that, the one-on-one, you wouldn't instigate a fight the way you would now. You wouldn't push people because you know it had a direct consequence. You start something, at lunchtime you had to deal with it.
Or best case scenario, you bought time till after school. Sooner or later, you had to leave the building.
Yeah, but at some point you were navigating your route home.
Right.
And it's not that way anymore, and it's so extreme that somebody ends up hurting somebody or killing somebody or maiming somebody. But yeah, like you said, whittling and whittling is what we did before the internet.
Yeah. Before you could 3D print things.
Yeah. It's 3D printing, but with wood and a knife.
Yeah, or soap.
Yeah, or soap.
If you go back even further before we had wood.
Yeah. Phil and I met building the pyramids. I had to borrow sand last. Yeah. How do you think? And like you getting, and I know you're with the fire police, and but you might be doing something that's going back in the search and rescue again. And if you do that, what have you seen from when 20 years ago or whatever in the change in volunteerism? What do you see as different now?
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Again, speaking from the fire side of things, just because I have more relevant information currently on it. Because the last time I did anything in search and rescue I was with you guys for about a year, year and a half. And it was just the commute was too far. And, life gets in the way.
But the company was awesome.
Absolutely. I think the stats from like the 70s where there were about 35,000 active volunteer firefighters in Pennsylvania.
And now we're down to 30. No, it was 380,000.
380,000. And now we're down to 35. Right.
Down to 35.
And that shows across the board. We have the luxury of being in a college town. So when you get college kids that are in from whatever home company they're with, they typically join and you have them for, a
couple years,
2 to 5 years. And we've got some very, very good firefighters out of that. But then they move on back to whatever their normal life is and you lose them.
But haven't we lost our middle ground in volunteerism? Haven't we lost the people between 35 and 50?
At least partially, yeah.
It seems like we're heavy on the ends.
On the ends, right. And the newer ones that are coming in don't necessarily have the time or the initiative to get all the training they need, so they fizzle out.
And we've upped the amount of training they need. It's a deadly combination.
Exponentially upped it.
Right.
And for good reason, but it's tough to justify when you're looking at it as a volunteer opportunity. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got the older guys, which I don't think we quite fall into yet, but we're getting there quickly. But they're starting to either die off or retire. I mean, you get some that are in it literally until you put them in the ground. But if very least, I'm pushing 50, you're just above. You start slowing down because you just can't keep up with what you did 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm 55, and it's just like when you see it on the speed limit sign. It means slow down.
Right.
It's slow down.
And if you don't, your body will remind you quickly that no, you can't do this anymore.
And mercilessly,
it
will remind you. And it's like,
again, like my soccer mom minivan outside. When you hit 65 miles an hour, it tells you, hey, you're in the minivan, not a Miata.
Yeah. It's funny because I will do something and people will, and I will do something and it'll be some kind of physical thing, competition or something. It turns into a competition against somebody half my age. And except for once recently, I usually win. And the person will say, it's like somebody said to me, I said, well, I beat him half my age. And he said, yeah, but they won't be paying for it tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's the difference.
And you have to calculate everything on a daily basis. Is this worth what I'm going to feel like tomorrow?
Right. And I am all like, I am at this point, I am all second wind and scar tissue. So, there is no first gear anymore. It's we're going in second wind, second gear and starting up. I don't think one of the problems I do still have with this generation. I think that we've comforted them so much that they don't know how to push beyond. You know? Yeah. Or do without. You know, I think there is lessons to be learned about going to bed hungry.
Absolutely.
Going to bed with a sore butt from not listening to an adult. You know, getting a switch to you or whatever.
Walking to school.
Walking to school.
I see it every day. There's a bus stop right down the street from my house. Parents will drive their kids the block to the bus stop. To the bus stop. It's like and I drove school bus for a little while. And there, I mean, you know, I was out in the middle of nowhere, so you had 1/4-mile long driveways. Parents would drive their kids to the end of the driveway on beautiful days. I'm like, I used to literally, when I was in elementary school, we walked uphill both ways to school. Because there was a hill between our house and the school, so it was literally uphill both ways.
Well, but that's why I tell people, uphill both ways through the blazing snow.
Yep.
You know, that's the way we went to school.
And it's... I don't know. It's just a different world, I guess. But then you wonder why kids fail when they get older. Well, that's what you've taught them.
Right.
You've taught them how not to take responsibility. You taught them how not to have drive and desire because you just hand them everything they want. So there's no reward for doing a good job. And it's insane, if you ask me.
And I see so many times, even on searches, I see a generation of people that will sit there and wait or ponder for the thing that's not there. And I always say, do what you have where you are with what you've got. That's it.
Yep. But the problem these days is if it's not in the little box that you have in your pocket called a cell phone, it doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, everything's about that phone. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm very dependent on my phone. It's on me wherever I go, and part of that is from having children.
But after a period of pathetic whining, you could reboot, go into the old archives, and survive without it.
Oh, absolutely.
You could
absolutely.
You know, wind the brain back up, and
there are days where I wish for that.
Yeah.
My wife and I, a bunch of years ago, started doing wilderness camping, and that's one of our policies. Phone goes along for safety reasons.
Right.
You know, if family needs to get a hold of us, if we have something happen, we don't touch them the whole time we're there. And it's refreshing. It's ruining discourse. It just people are not conversing.
And
people don't know how to have a face-to-face conversation anymore. I mean,
they don't. They fail in that in every single way. And do you think volunteering is added to your life?
Oh, absolutely. There's things that I've gotten to do and learn that wouldn't have been accessible to me otherwise.
Does it annoy you? And annoys me, so maybe I'm projecting. Does it annoy you when they do a story or whatever and they accentuate the word volunteer? Because sometimes I feel like they're saying it like it's less than. Or
they're trying to soup it up more than.
There's no real middle ground where it is.
The distinction between a professional firefighter and a volunteer. They've now started calling it a career firefighter and a volunteer, but I have the same training they do, if not more, in a lot of cases.
Well, I think
the difference is they're getting a paycheck for it.
The only distinction to be made is paid and unpaid.
Yep.
That's it. There's nothing else because the training is the same and everything. And yes, if you are a paid career firefighter, you're going to get more exposure. In general,
depending
in
many
places.
Yes.
In many places.
Well, typically, yeah, because, I mean, I run with Kutztown Fire Department. We don't typically run enough calls to justify putting a paid person on.
Right.
It's getting to the point that we are, but it's not going to happen anytime probably in my career.
Right. It's interesting because I just think that it should be paid and unpaid and not because volunteers do their paid job and then they come do their volunteer job.
Yep.
And
these days volunteers are doing multiple paid jobs and then their volunteer job.
Oh, you got to work more to make less in this world.
Right.
The way it is.
And I think that's part of the decline of volunteerism. You don't have time if you work 2 jobs. Both parents are working anymore. Plus you got the kids. There's only 24 hours in a day, no matter how you slice them up. And especially since we've had the baby, my hours at the fire department have drastically declined They understand, and I make myself available for the calls that I know I'm going to be needed on if I can. But yeah, the numbers just don't work out in the favor of anybody, really.
No, and that's
except the employers.
Yeah. We'll continue on that topic. It's Phil Wheeler, and You Were Worried, but